A shocking revelation most of us are not aware of. Earthquake warnings for San Francisco. The area is threatened by ships buried under the city for landfill. I was not aware of this until reading this article. How many people living there are aware of the fact that in order to create the landfill in the San Francisco Bay Area, they used wooden ships to fill up the area? Now, in the case of a big one, earthquake, obviously we're going to have a lot of liquefaction there on a regular occurrence, but even more so since the 1906 earthquake because of the fact that there's more people living there, and obviously the landfill with ships is not a good situation. Who would want to be there if that happens? San Francisco could be threatened by the shipwrecks that act as the foundation of the city the next time an earthquake hits the West Coast in this area. This is according to a new documentary on this. San Francisco lies next to the major fracture in the Earth's crust, the San Andreas Fault. It forms the tectonic boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate, extending 750 miles and splitting California into two. San Francisco witnesses minor earthquakes on a regular basis due to its close proximity to San Andreas and the Hayward faults, and we're going to see simulations of that further on by USGS and South California Earthquake Center. You can see how the earth will move very quickly in this area. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. Now, these boats were used purposely for the landfill. Wooden boats. San Francisco, the San Andreas Fault caused both the 1906 and 1989 earthquakes that devastated California, with a magnitude 7.9 in the 1906 earthquake, destroying more than 80% of San Francisco, and the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake with a magnitude of 6.9, California's Central Coast, injuries and victims from that. The Discovery Channel documentary explains the risk posed by this to the city by an event of the big one. Jeremy Wade's Mystery of the Deep series featured a section which looked at the Golden City and the foundations, in other words, how the landfill was created. Now, this simulation, you can see the Hayward Fault is the yellow line right there, and you'll see the shake map later on. Amazing. Now, the documentary explains in Mysteries of the Deep the section which looked at the Golden City, the Golden Gate, and the foundation, and the revelation says that, explaining that in 1848, sparked the beginning of the California gold rush, where thousands of wannabe prospectors flocked to the west, to the area via San Francisco. One historian explains these new arrivals, as well as many crews, simply abandoned their ships and headed for the gold fields. So that's why there were so many ships there, and that's what they used for the landfill. Marine historian Michael Tuttle said, "I think at one point there were over 900 vessels just abandoned in the San Francisco harbor. 900. Scuttling ships is a deliberate sinking of vessels by allowing water to flow into the hull and sinking them, of course." Peter Campbell, maritime archaeologist, says, "Often they're filled with rocks or they'll be filled with sediment. They have big piles driven through them in order to keep them in place. In areas in between the sunken ships are filled with refuse, dirt, and all kinds of things to create the landfill." Through a loophole in San Francisco law, those responsible for sinking a ship could claim it as land. Natural people dashed to sink the ships, giving that they would then be owners of waterfront property. Now, 170 years later, these boats are the skeleton of the city's past and the foundations of one of the world's technology hubs. However, this comes with its own risks. The city has expanded far beyond the natural limits. The marina, Missouri Bay, Hunters Point neighbors, as well as parts of the Embarcadero are built entirely on landfill. Marine archaeologist Bob Rondeau said, when you build a city like San Francisco on landfill that's comprised of old shipwrecks, being of course made of wood, it's not the most stable platform, and what also adds to the challenges when you're living on an active fault line like the San Andreas Fault. Saturated, partly saturated soil significantly loses strength and stiffness after applied stress, such as shaking during an earthquake, besides the fact that the wood would rot away. Now, this can cause, of course, extensive damage to the buildings that are built on top of the landfill, as San Francisco Marina District witnessed in the Loma Prieta 1989 quake. Maritime historian Alexander Clark warns San Francisco could be especially at risk for this reason in the event of a significant seismic event happening in the future. A study published in the journal Nature in 2006 found that a sufficient stress levels has been reached on San Andreas Fault for an earthquake of magnitude greater than 7. So in other words, the stress there is big enough for a bigger earthquake than magnitude 7. The risk, according to the study, could be increased more rapidly than previously believed, but in the 15 years since its publication, it was published in 2006, there's not been a substantial quake, although the ability to predict major earthquakes, of course, remains elusive. Now, according to San Francisco's position, Clark says, you start thinking, hang on, is this going to hold in the next seismic event? Tuttle echoes this, and the documentary concludes by saying, I wouldn't want to be there for the next big one earthquake. So this is a surprise to me. I didn't know they had landfill by scuttling these 900 ships. This by Charlie Pittock, Express UK. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. All of you there, please be very careful and aware of what is under you there.